President Trump telling the New York Times that the Russia investigation paints the U.S. in a bad light on the global stage, saying, quote, "There's been no collusion, but I think he," referring to Robert Mueller, "is going to be fair. The only thing that bothers me about timing, I think, it's a very bad thing for the country because it makes the country look bad. It makes the country look very bad, and it puts the country in a very bad position. So the sooner it's worked out, the better it is for the country." Joining me now, Edward Isaac Dover, Chief Washington Correspondent for Politico. Happy New Year to you, Edward Isaac.
Happy New Year to you.
All right, so is this a case of the president trying to work the refs a little bit? He's been accused of doing that with the Mueller investigation.
Well, he spoke about collusion, I think it's 16 times in the portions of the transcript that the New York Times put out from that interview. But it's a word that he threw around a lot, both in saying that there was no collusion for anything that he was involved in, but there was collusion for what the Democrats were involved in the 2016 election. It's sort of a word stripped of meaning in the way that he's talking about it. What he is clearly showing, though, is that he is frustrated by this investigation continuing and wishes it would be wrapped up, saying it's bad for the country. People can debate that. It certainly hasn't been great for him politically or in all the time and effort that his White House and his aides have had to put into thinking about this investigation and wondering about where it's going to go.
Well, it is true that everything we've learned about it to this point, the indictments that have been brought so far, don't tie into the White House really at all. I mean, there's a case of charge of lying to an FBI agent, and there's Michael Flynn with his business dealings, same with Paul Manafort, but nothing that ties directly to the campaign. Can we read anything into that?
Well, look, we just don't know enough about what's going on here to make any real assessments of it. We do know that Michael Flynn pled guilty to lying to the FBI in his office in the West Wing as the national security advisor to President Trump. So that does go to the White House. The question is whether that's just about Michael Flynn or whether there's more coming to it. One thing that has been thought about by a lot of people analyzing this is that Michael Flynn is a pretty big fish in this investigation and was given a plea deal for a pretty small charge. That would seem to point to the fact that Bob Mueller thinks that there is more that he can get out of Bob Mueller or out of Michael Flynn, that there are ways to play that forward and maybe go after a bigger target or more information.
Of course, the fact that his attorney general recused himself from this entire thing is part of the reason that we have a Mueller investigation, and the president seemed to express some frustration about that. The New York Times quotes him as saying this: "I don't want to get into loyalty, but I will tell you that I will say this: Holder," referring to the previous attorney general, "protected President Obama, totally protected him." That from the New York Times interview with the president. Is that bitterness? I mean, is he suggesting that Jeff Sessions never should have recused himself, as he has said before?
That does seem to be the one thing that he keeps coming back to here, that if Sessions hadn't recused himself, then that would not have precipitated the need, perhaps, for a special counsel to be appointed. It also puts it so that it's the number 2 at the Justice Department, Rod Rosenstein, who has authority over Bob Mueller and not Jeff Sessions himself. But that being said, the appointment of Mueller was precipitated by the firing of Jim Comey and everything that happened there. So it's not such an easy line to just say, well, if Jeff Sessions hadn't recused himself, then nothing here would have been an issue.
Well, as chief correspondent in Washington for Politico, you got to be looking forward to 2018.
There has been no shortage of news in 2017, and I don't think any of us are expecting that to stop in 2018.
It doesn't stop. Edward Isaac Dover from Politico, thank you.
Thank you.